times they are a-changing. We're going to get some updates on what's going on in the real estate market in Northwest Florida along the beaches, and we're excited to really share with you some of the things and where the opportunities are, whether you're a buyer or seller in today's market. All right, Price, we've been doing these for, a number of years now. And, this is one of those times where some of the things we've been talking about, we're beginning to see natural progressions in the cycle. We're beginning to see some of those things. Let's talk about a little bit about where we've been maybe over the last 12 months, some of the changes we've seen. Sure. And then we'll get into what we're seeing now.
Sure. For our market here, Santa Rosa Beach, when Florida opened for rentals back in 2020, this market just really popped, and we had a run for 12 months there that was like nothing we've ever seen before. I mean, demand through the roof, gobbled up all the supply, drove prices up, and then starting last July of 2021, we started to see that temper just a little bit. Our inventory was quite limited, and the number of sales began to drop from a month-over-month, year-over-year perspective, and that's continued through this year. We're still seeing a ton of demand, but we're seeing it change a little bit. The number of transactions have dropped.
Yeah, and I will say, obviously the numbers we're going to focus on today are really going to be focused in on the 30A market, really this area, really this 17, 18 mile stretch of beach here. But in reality, what we've been seeing historically is it doesn't matter whether you're in Destin, Navarre, St. George Island, Panama City, all of those markets, really, the numbers we're going to talk about are very similar in all of these markets. So we're going to use this as kind of really as the bell tower for our area, and it's just easier just to do one set of data. So let's talk about that. We've seen average prices. What have they moved up roughly over the last couple of years?
Well, it went up in 2020. The average price of a home along 30A moved up about 26%. In 2021, about 23%, and so far this year we're up about close to 20%.
Yeah.
So the better part of 65 or so percent move, 70% move, in the matter of 2.5 years.
Yeah. So it's dramatic what we've seen.
Yes.
Obviously, historic. Some of the numbers we're seeing, and we're beginning to see that begin to be tempered now. Some of those signs are obviously the number of price reductions, the amount of inventory that's coming onto the market now. Let's talk a little bit about some of those factors that we're seeing now and what we're seeing right now, maybe.
Sure. And what we're seeing there is the number of homes on the market. That's what we want to talk about there. That's moved up dramatically. We're up to just under 300 homes for sale, which when we look at the absorption rate as of May, we're right about 3 months of inventory. Where if we rewind the tape and look at the end of February, we had about 3 weeks of inventory there. So we've seen really a large gain there, compounded. It's a twofold situation there where the number of transactions have increased, and as we've already talked about, the number of homes for sale have increased, and the number of sales have decreased. So that's kind of created that widening there.
Yeah, and when we're talking about absorption rate, if you're not familiar with that, basically that is based on the number of homes that we have, the average number of sales we've been having, how long would it take for us to absorb all of the sales of the current inventory that we have on the market. And when we start talking about moving from 3 weeks to 3 months in relatively maybe 3 months time period, that's pretty dramatic.
Yes, it is.
And so when we begin to see that, now where we are, just to give you an idea, let's talk a couple of things about some of the factors that are affecting what's going on in the market right now. Some of the things that are really beginning to level off and maybe get back to a little more of a normal pace, maybe.
Yeah. I think we are moving in that direction, and some of the factors. The world is opening up.
Right.
So people have more choices where they can go wherever they'd like to go. We've seen interest rates move up a little bit, and that has some influence on things. But I think that if I were a buyer, if I could say, and kind of go there, and that would be one of the factors I'd be looking at is the globe opening up? How many people are coming to this area? And I think you have some really good information on that kind of proves that out, that we are seeing a little shift there from where we were to where we are now in terms of guests here and rentals.
Yeah, and some of the numbers from the rental perspective, which in reality, for the most part, a lot of times times the rental revenues are going to be what the boat that floats things higher in a lot of cases, because what we saw is even when we're seeing those 20% plus each year of gains in the capital appreciation of the underlying property, we were seeing that rate move as far as revenue at that pace or higher on the rental side, which meant that the rental investment side was actually even getting better as we went there. So now what we want to do, if you're a buyer specifically, is you want to know the factors. A couple of the factors that we know right now is there are 23% more people that have registered a tax ID number to be able to collect short-term rentals in Walton County. Now that's Miramar Beach, South Walton, Freeport, that's everything. But a 23% increase in competition if you're renting a place is dramatic. On top of that, we do have, and we just know, I mean, you can just talk to your friends, the folks that were just coming here because we were open and it just, it was safe as far as you knew what you were going to get expecting. We're seeing people traveling overseas now. We're seeing people maybe moving around the country in a little bit different things, or maybe things they waited to do and they just came here because they knew what they were getting. Maybe we're seeing that expand. So consequently, we're seeing more rentals available. We're seeing more options for those renters to choose from, which has led to, and these are, I'm not going to give you the exact, because I don't have it right in front of me, but I can give you the rough idea. Last year, on average, the bookings were happening about 34 to 35 days prior to arrival, and so they were basically booking about a month, just a little over a month in advance. Now we're seeing that's in the 14 to 17 day range. Now, what that did back previously is that was something that they booked earlier because they knew that the prices were going up as they went. Now with more competition, now with those things that are happening, actually what people are doing is they're waiting till late, because we're seeing now, which we haven't seen in years, we're seeing some of those rental managers take those prices and actually drop them down as they get closer to make sure they have someone in the house and they have some revenue there. So it's kind of working in a way that if you're a buyer and you're going to be focusing in on the rental side of it, just be conservative. Understand that we may have front-end loaded and we may have peaked on the rental revenue side of it if you've got a property that you're going to be renting last year. So just be conservative in that. Just make sure that you've got it when you're looking at this, that you've got a property that's going to be able to generate revenues when others don't. And what I mean by that is there are certain locations that do better. And think of it this way. If we saw a 20% decrease, which I don't know that we're going to, but I'm just playing this out. If we saw a 20% decrease in the number of people that were coming to town, where are those 20% that we lost not going to stay? Think about the A type of properties. This is where it gets very particular on being very particular on the property that you choose. It is making sure that if you're looking from a revenue standpoint that it's going to be able to carry revenue, even if you see a pullback in that, economically, whatever. Also, when you're looking at it from a standpoint of that, you want to make sure that you're patient. We're seeing this now. Let's talk about some of the things we're seeing as far as the pricing on homes. We were seeing it where, it was kind of like you just wanted to be where it was going, as the old Wayne Gretzky, be where the puck was going. Well, the puck was going this way, so you priced it up here.
That's right.
Now we're seeing some leveling off, and what would you speak to that a little bit?
Well, I mean, if it's leveling off, and what we're seeing on our hot sheet, it shows us what is going on with the listings that are currently on the market. We're seeing a lot of properties that are where the price is being reduced. So that tells us people were using their Gretzky model, pricing it here, so they're bringing it down. So in this process of leveling off, we want to be very particular in how we price our property. We may not want to look at the last sale and price it up higher than the last sale. We may want to price it even or even slightly below that to make sure that we take advantage of the strong demand that's still here. Our buyers are quite savvy, and they're going to recognize the market is beginning to shift. So we just want to put particular importance on pricing the property to the market, not beyond the market. So that's imperative right now that you find an agent that knows what's going on in the market, that's looking ahead and puts you in a position to be successful in the shortest amount of time possible.
Yeah, so think of it this way. If there were only, and I'm just going to use this example, I'm going to use watercolor because it's kind of the biggest neighborhood. Sure. If this time last year there were only 6 houses for sale, and now there's 25.
That's right.
You've got now 19 more that are in competition with you if you're a watercolor house. So from that standpoint, if you're a buyer, just be very particular. Find that, be patient, be looking and knowing exactly what you want. Work with an agent that gives you an idea and can give you an understanding of not where the market's been, but where is it headed? What are the factors we're seeing right now? Someone that can talk to you about the cost of ownership, somebody that can talk to you about the rental side of it, someone that can speak to kind of what's going on in the neighborhood or the particular area you're in. Now let's shift over to the seller side, because this is where it's really important. I mean, gosh, if you're a seller, still a great time. I mean, here we are after the last 3 years.
Yeah, same thing applies. I mean, we just have to be, you've had this, if you've owned, you've had this great run up, and now's the time. If you decide you want to sell, we just can't price it too far up. We need to be very cognizant of the market, where it's going. I mean, if you have that A+ property, as Jimmy was talking about, that the buyer may be looking for, there you may have the ability to price that up still, because those are in short supply and in high demand. But if you have something that maybe isn't that, we have to look at our properties and be honest and not be emotional, make our decision based on all emotion. But if it's something that's similar to, say, those 19 homes that are 24 homes that are for sale in watercolor, if I'm not that one or two that's best, or the one that's the smallest, I'm in that middle, I've got to be very sensitive to price. I don't want to price it up. I may want to price it even or very close to that last sale to make sure I can take advantage, of the demand that's out there.
Yeah, as a seller, I would say this. Over the last few years, obviously, it's been amazing what we've seen. I mean, literally, if you were within a 10% range of where the value was, if you didn't get it sold very quickly, you were going to get it sold in a couple of weeks, and it was going to be multiple offers because there was not a lot of options.
That's right.
As the options go up, it becomes more and more imperative that you have a professional agent that not only educates you on the pricing and gives you the data so that you can make the best decision for you, but I'll tell you a lost skill over the last 3 years. Marketing a real estate property to maximize the set of eyes and the set of feet that walk through that door. This is where a professional really comes in now. How are you going to be able to set your home or your condo apart from the others as a seller? How is it going to be presented in a way that maximizes that? Does that person have a plan of action to make sure that these are steps that we've done this before? Gosh, it's the old, if you're going to work with somebody, make sure you've got somebody that's got a plan of action there, done it before, and that has the ability to create the opportunity for you to maximize that price and do it in the least amount of time with the least amount of hassle. So consequently, if you're a seller, listen, congratulations.
Yeah.
If you're a homeowner right now and you've owned it for more than 2 years, you've killed it. And if you're considering selling in the next few years, you do have a window here. And of course, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but we do know that there's still enough strength, especially if it's priced correctly, marketed properly, presented properly in a way, you're going to be very pleased with what you can get out of your house right now. So let's kind of wrap this up with a couple things. We've talked about where we were, where we are. If you were going to speak to, let's just say, the buyer that's saying, well, should I wait? What would you say to those folks right now?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
If you've got a property that you'd like and it comes to the market, it's still a great time to be a buyer. If you're going to be in this market for the long term, come on and get in. I mean, we are so excited about what's going on, so bullish, if you will, after this market over the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years. Incredible things have happened here. It's going to continue to grow and just blossom. So interest rates historically are still very low if you're going to finance some of your purchase. So I think it's a great time to be in.
Yeah, that's one thing.
Get in.
We had someone that asked me that the other day. They were like, well, gosh, maybe should I wait till the fall? Well, I've got to say where we are, and we're doing this right now. Yeah. If I were a betting man, interest rates are probably going to be higher than they are right now in the future. So then start factoring that in. If you really want to get really super educated on this, take the amount of what you're going to be mortgaging, mortgage at the rates that you're seeing right now, and then take and add a 0.5% and a 1% and see how much the price would have to be reduced in order for it to still make the sense on the monthly basis. I think it's still, from a buyer's perspective, if you can find the property that fits the criteria you're looking for, having a long-term view. Listen, this is not a trader's market. This is a market where you need to have some vision of 3, 5, 7 years that you're looking at to make for everything. And understand that when you're buying here, it's not just about the ROI on the capital appreciation and the dividends. It's about that ROI you can't put a number on, which is framing yourself in all of those memories for your children, your grandchildren, and all of your friends and family members and coworkers. So now let's talk from a seller's perspective, just kind of wrapping this up. What if the seller was like, well, have I missed the boat? What would you say?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
It's a great time to be a seller. We still have strong demand, low days on the market, lots of people out looking for property to buy. So it's just a matter of of getting with a professional that knows the market, pricing it right, and you can still be successful in a short period of time and get a great price compared to what you paid, 2, 3, or if you're fortunate enough to have bought even longer back into the past than that. I mean, you're looking at a great return, so you can't go wrong.
No, and I would say, when we were talking about that, we're looking at basically a 3-month roughly absorption rate. Historically speaking, a level where it's buyer and seller, it's even terms, I guess you could say, would be about 6 months, historically speaking. But we're still at about 3 months. So if you're a seller, this opportunity is still there as long as you're working with a professional that helps you present it, price it, and market it in a way that makes sure you maximize those things. So hope this has been helpful. Listen, if you've got questions, reach out to your Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Beach Property of Florida's agent, and I know that they'll be glad to fill you in on exactly what they're seeing and specifically to your situation, help you achieve all of those goals that you have. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.